These are the interview themes, and this is gold, guys, because not a lot of people tell you these things. But what are some of the common themes that you are to expect in an interview? And if you're able to understand the themes, you're going to be able to be successful in answering any single question they throw at you. Now, the number one, your experience. The very, very first question is always about your experience. So from this moment on, you should already be thinking, if they were to ask me a question about my experience, how would I answer it? You know, how would I answer my experience? And one of the biggest letdowns is when I see these wonderful resumes and people say, well, I don't have any experience. I'm just new to the field. I changed careers, but I want to be a teacher. That's it, you're not getting the job. It's not about what experience you have, it's how you sell yourself. Can you sell me water in the middle of the sea? You have to, and you can do it, but it takes practice. You need to practice on a daily basis. In 2 minutes, how will you sell yourself? And we're gonna practice in just a minute. Rigor and relevance. You have to know about rigor and relevance. That is the buzzword throughout the state, throughout the nation. When you are teaching, when you're delivering lessons, do they have rigor and relevance? Does everybody understand rigor and relevance? I'll give you an example, right? I'm gonna give you an example because this is very powerful. When we all went to school, at least I, well, we used to do a lot of ABCD. We would be learning, let's say we were learning about the Civil War. And we learned when it was fought, who was the North, who was the South, who won, etc., etc. And then when we would take the test, the questions were, who won the war, A, B, C, or D? You know, who were the Confederates, right? Etc., etc. And it was just an ABC answer. Well, that is what's called fact and opinion learning. But when you take it to rigor and relevance, you're taking it from fact and opinion all the way to principle and theory. And look at how powerful that changes. Tell me your name, sir.
Humberto.
Humberto, as a result of what you know about the Civil War, tell me what opportunities, having won the war, presented for the Latino community in the border. Wow, look at the learning and the critical thinking that now he's gonna have to be interacting with. It still touches on what we learned, but now you see the complexity and the rigor of that question and how powerful that is. And so that's what we're referring to when we're looking at rigor and complexity. Can you recall it, level 1? Can you apply it, level 2? Can you accommodate it, level 3? And can you assimilate it, level 4? See, he assimilated it when I said Latino community right away. Boom. Very, very powerful. STAR. What do you know about the STAR? This is the state assessment. It replaced tax. You might get thrown a question like, what do you know about tax? And what do you know about STAR? Do you guys know about STAR? Have you heard about STAR? That's like the buzzword as well. Is it a harder test? No, it's not a harder test.
More critical thinking.
It is more critical thinking and it's more multi-step thinking, but it's not hard. It is not a hard test. You need to always say that. It is not a hard or difficult test. It just requires more complexity, more multi-step thinking. That's all it is. Standards. What are your standards? See, you have your curriculum in the state of Texas. And what is your curriculum? The TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. That is your curriculum. Whether you go to Socorro, to El Paso, to Dallas, that is your curriculum. And the state, align all that curriculum to this framework where we have readiness, we have supporting, and process standards. And you have to know those. Now, in your TEKS, 30% of your curriculum is readiness standards, 70% is supporting standard, and then the rest is process. But what gets your special ed and your bilingual students is the process standards. Can they process the information in multiple ways? And so if they're behind in that, they're gonna have a difficult time, but you need to know about that. And I'll show you how we integrate those into an interview question. Differentiated instruction, you know about differentiated instruction. Depth and complexity, response to intervention. That's a big buzzword also in the state. It's how do you respond to the needs of special education students, tier one, tier 2, and tier 3 students. How do you respond to them? Small group instruction, running records, progress monitoring, those things, those are buzzwords in there. Latest book, do you guys read? Don't tell me like one day somebody said, you know, I love to read, I just haven't had the time, and when I retire, I'm gonna read a lot. And when was the last time, and I'm gonna tell you this, when you look at readiness, at your standards and reading, I want you to think about this, okay? This is how intense it is. If you were to go to your mechanic, and you were to ask the mechanic, can you please change the battery on my car? And your mechanic will say, give me just a second, let me get the manual to see which is the battery. Would you trust that mechanic?
No.
You wouldn't, right? Whether it was the battery or the alternator or whatever it takes. Believe it or not, teachers who have been teaching for 30 years, 20 years, and pretend to know what there is to teach. And I ask them, what are your standards? Well, Mr. Ace, let me look at my notes because I don't know. It is no different than that. And you're telling me you've been teaching for 30 years, for 20, for 10. This is what you do on a day-to-day basis. You need to really learn it and get good at it. Very important. So the latest book, what is the book? You know, read. Be a lifelong learner. Read on a daily basis. What is one of the things that I push my teachers to do is personally, I read 1 book a month and 5 articles a week. And I love the learning. Why? Because I need to be a model for my teachers, for my students, and for my community. And I want to be always on top of the latest trend when it comes to my job, when it comes to my profession. Very important. Take the time to read, and that is very impressive. And I've seen in interview committees, they've asked, what's the latest book that you read, and how does this apply to your position? Very important. Vertical and horizontal. Know what vertical and horizontal alignment is when it comes to teaching. Then know about the programs, the LEP, the SPED, the GT, the technology, and the inclusion. The reading components. That's a very common question coming up. What are the components of reading? Does everybody know the components of reading? Know them. As a teacher, that's like knowing what the battery in the car is. 5 components. Here we go, all right? Fluency, phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. There we go. Know them, like it's your Bible. SPED and bilingual. Know about the special education program, the process. When we're talking about special ed, know about IEPs and ARDs. When we're talking about bilingual, know about LPAC, and know about the type of program that the campus has. Is it shelter English instruction? Is it an immersion program, early exit, whatever it is, right? Or is it dual language? Discipline. What is your philosophy of discipline in whatever it is? Learn your philosophy from this point on. Parental engagement. What do you believe? What is your philosophy about parental engagement? All these are going to come in the interview. Professional learning communities is a big thing. You know, making sure that you understand what is the purpose of professional learning communities, and that is to refine, you know, your craft. We want to refine your craft, learn strategies and best practices. And then learner center. What is a learner center environment? If I was to ask you a question in an interview, it was, if I was to see your classroom from the window, what would we see you doing? There is a learner center question. And then curriculum and instruction. Know about curriculum and instruction.